Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 130 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we highlight an organization that truly looks at their program as one big family, the Seahawks Hockey Club. Bill Zaniboni joins the podcast to look back on the 2021-22 season, the fifth year for the team in the EHL, and the first year for the program's EHLP team. Further along, the E-Crew welcomes a special guest onto the podcast as Jim McCabe, the play-by-play broadcaster for the Seahawks, helps select the top 10 players in franchise history. I'm joined now by Bill Zaniboni, the head coach and GM of the Seahawks Hockey Club. How's it going, Bill?
Good, Neil. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for coming back on, and let's jump right into it. With the same question I've asked everyone so far this offseason, when you look back on the 21-22 season this past year, what are the first thoughts that come to mind for you?
Well, it was a huge year for us because we introduced the EHL Premier team. So, there was a lot of new challenges for us, and I think that for any coach is exciting, to kind of learn new stuff and kind of see the process develop. But, I think that was probably the biggest thing for us was the Premier team. And I think, if you look at it, those Premier guys, I think totaled almost like 40 to 50 games in the EHL. So, we stressed that development model, and that was huge for us.
I don't know if you remember this, but the first time I asked you who was going to coach the P team last summer, you told me it would be Rocket. And I was like, yeah. I don't know who Rocket is, but how great was it for you to bring Mike Richard in and have him coach alongside you?
Yeah, we do this because we love it, right? But now to have someone else that you can get up early in the morning with and have some fun, bring back a lot of memories from playing together and stuff, and share the same philosophies about just putting guys in good spots to be successful. And it's nice to see him happy back in hockey as well.
Does it feel like this past year was your fifth year already in the league?
Yes and no. Sometimes it's just, it's another season, another group of kids, and other challenges, learning curves. But at times you still kind of feel like the new group. But I don't think that's an issue. I think that's good. And I think one of the things is like the respect level amongst the EHL, like, you try to make people feel welcome right away. And, we had that year one, went from Mark Kumpel to you, to the coaches in the league and stuff like that. So, it's just been really enjoyable.
And you mentioned how this past year was your first year in the EHLP, the 4 years prior, just EHL. Was this always the plan of action to kind of go in this order?
Nah, I don't, Neil, I never have plans. it's no, it was an opportunity presented itself. After finishing, year four and kind of seeing other teams and how they've worked their Premier team into it, and going with that development model. And I think it's something that it's like to me and to Mike and to Mr. Klein, Coach Sherman, like it's an exciting adventure to bring in another group of younger kids, with some veterans mixed in there to help develop guys and to see where they can go.
Yeah. And you brought this up earlier, and I have to joke because Mike asked me the same question. You had all those guys that played all those EHL games throughout the year. Mike did ask me where the award was for the team that had the most EHL games from their EHLP. But the question really is, now looking forward to this upcoming season, with some of those guys that are moving up, how valuable will that those games, those experiences be for them this season?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think they realize that if you look in the EHL, the number one team can lose the number 5 team, on any given night. I think that's one of the benefits. I think that's why a lot of colleges recruit out of the league is, the depth. So I think it's huge for guys to get that taste and realize like, oh man, like doesn't matter, who you're playing on any given night. Like this is why practice is hard. This is why, coach is demanding this of us. So it translates, and it was nice to see. We had some of those guys that were pretty successful for us last year when they got called up, and we're excited to see what they do when they come in here in camp.
And it's crazy to think, like, I had to pinch myself kind of throughout the year this past year and remind myself to that point that it was your first year of having an EHLP team, because when I was around your organization, it didn't feel like that. Why is it with the Seahawks that you really are one family, regardless if you're playing EHLP one day or EHL the next?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we stress in recruiting. It's something that we talk about, like you can't be better than the next guy. Like it doesn't matter what you do. It's about the success of the group. And I think it's the culture that we've tried to build here over the past 5 years, and and I think you probably know better than anyone, and it kind of just goes with me. Like I'm always, if it's best for the league or for whatever, like I'm fine with that, and that message has to be translated to our players. They have to trust us. We have to have a good relationship with our guys. And it worked out great last year. Exactly. Guys would play an EHL game on a Friday, and they might have to play a premier game on a Monday. And we didn't have scratches really. Like if you looked at our group, like we didn't have guys sitting in the stands. And again, like part of my message is, hey, you're going to develop by playing games. You're going to get game experience. So you're going to be able to place yourself where you belong.
Yeah. And like, I just noticed that you mentioned guys not sitting in the stands. It always felt like your other team was in the stands, right? There was
they always support each other.
There was a showcase game. I don't even know which showcase it was, but I was like walking somewhere around the building. I don't even know who scored the goal.
It was a goal pull.
Okay. Like that eruption for that goal, like it had to put a smile on your face, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you want, right? Like as a player, you're always happy for the guys in your room when they had success. And, as a coach, to see that translate, especially into the time that we're in, I feel like, a lot of it is me nowadays. So to see a group of kids come together and be excited for players' success around them is huge. And that, to me, like, if you go back and look at our schedule, I think we had like 30 games or 33 games within a goal this year. Yeah. They competed for each other. Yeah. And that's something that's really hard to teach anymore.
And one of those games that was within a goal was that playoff game against Valley, where I was there in Haverhill. I know there was a goal called back as well. We're not gonna.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Okay, yeah. we're not gonna talk too much about that part. But those games, those single elimination playoff games where players get the chance to be in overtime, be in double overtime, and play in those pressure situations. How important are those, even win or lose, for every player that comes to our league?
Yeah, it's really important, I think, moving on, right? Because I mean, we're predominantly Division III, Division II placement area, right? So that's how college hockey is. I mean, for guys to have that experience, to play with little pins and needles, or a little anxiety in their gut, I think is a good thing. Again, it's not something you can sit in a classroom or watch on video. It's something you have to go through, to see how guys react and stuff like that. And I think it's great. I mean, that was an exciting hockey game. Obviously we did find a way to win in overtime, but it was an exciting game back and forth. It was, guys after the whistle, it was chippy, like guys were playing with some passion, and that's huge.
Yeah. And now coming up this fall, one thing that I wanted to make sure I asked you about, because it happens every year when your guys arrive. There's the one day where the league's Twitter notifications just go absolutely off with the Seahawks scavenger hunt. Like where did this idea come about? How did it come about? And what does it entail? And why do you do it?
Yeah, so I started this in Wisconsin, where I became a coach of a franchise. I was only a year old. So people didn't really know about us. So it was trying to get like awareness of the program and what we do and how it's a stepping stone for kids from all over the world. So again, we come here, starting a program from nothing. It's a great way to get kids that are not from the area to explore the area, to see what things are about, right? Different cultures and stuff like that. It's a great way for us to get out in the community, and shake policemen's hands and firemen's hands and to do good deeds for people. Like one of the things is bagging groceries and bringing them out to cars for people, or pumping gas, and just shaking people's hands and understanding that like what we're doing, we're very privileged to be doing, and giving back for a day is, I try to make it fun for the guys, but it shouldn't be that difficult. Yeah. And our guys have really embraced it and they love it, and it's been a lot of fun blowing up social media.
you do that every training camp, and you also now recently go up to New Hampshire, Waterville Valley every training camp. What is the goal for those weeks leading up to your first game? What are you trying to get? Where are you trying to get your team to? Is it more about chemistry at that point?
Yeah, it's really just about getting to know people. I think the one thing that have felt in probably like the last 7 years is networking and relationships have really kind of disintegrated when it comes to sports. So for me, like, one of my best friends is coaching with me, sitting in our office. I knew him through hockey, and now, we live 3 miles apart. Our kids play together.
Yeah.
I mean, the network and the bond is so important. And like, you can go anywhere and have a hockey season. You can go to any team and have a hockey season, but to make memories and, to make lifelong friends, it's really valuable. And to me, it's like, you can't put a price on it. And I think, especially nowadays with social media and phones, and then COVID hit and it isolated people, to get people out of their comfort zone, which to me is like our rink. Our rink is, everyone has that in common, but to get them out doing different things, I think is very important.
And it's all going to build up for you. Both teams' first games are at the first showcase of the season.
Yeah.
Was that the plan, or are you not a plan guy? You said.
No, I'm not a plan guy, but I wanted to play as late as possible. I wanted our guys to be able to enjoy the summer. It gives us as an organization time to get everyone moved in and, a decent manner. But yeah, no, I mean, we kind of throw them right in the fire, right? I mean, first showcase, first game. And we, don't get me wrong, we have exhibition stuff set up with teams, but I mean, the juices will be flowing first game, and at that showcase, I think it's a great opportunity to really see what you can do.
At what point do you think you or your players will start to feel anxious about that first game coming up?
I think the day of, those guys or maybe the night before will start to have a little anxiety. But for me, I don't. I mean, I'm going to be the same guy no matter what. I did all this as a player, I was fortunate enough to do it as a player at some high levels. And so now it's enjoying and trying to see what they do so we can help coach them. And if they're not maybe performing that day, then it's sit down and help try to mold them so they can perform in a situation like that.
100%. So before I bring Jeff and Anthony, and actually Jim's going to come on, Jim McCabe, your broadcaster, as a special guest, before I bring them on to break down your top 10, which will be fun for all of us, I got to put you on the spot, and I'm sure the players aren't going to love this because you're going to have to pick one, but there are so many options to pick. Who is the one foundational piece that we probably would have anyways, but you tell us where our top 10 has to start? Whenever you think about over the past 5 years, who's the first guy that comes to mind? Who's Mr. Seahawk to you?
Oh man. I think there's 4 total guys that I could say that about, but the one guy, and it's because he was here year 1.
Okay.
And I think has a really good opportunity to play pro hockey still, and is doing a nice job at the collegiate level at Norwich, is John Bannovitz.
Yeah.
He was here year 1 when, we struggled. And, his second year, I think really, being a captain here, very quiet captain for a ginormous human. But, led by example. He was very quiet, but just competed. And, he was an EHL All-Star. He's a great kid. He's going to be a nurse right now at Norwich, and he's playing college hockey. So that's a tough one, because I could rattle off another 4 guys. And some guys started with that team as well. Like we had another guy that played on that team that was here for 3 years. You know what I mean? And I know that those guys will be on that team.
Yes.
Whatever you select.
Yes, for sure. I mean, for Bannovitz, quick story. I'll never forget pulling up next to you at the parking lot breakaway. We were meeting for that all-star team. And I thought you had brought like an assistant coach or something with you for a second, because he's sitting there in the passenger seat next to you, and he is a grown man. I'm like, who is that guy? But it is a great place to start.
As quiet and humble as you can be,
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want guys to be like that and then be machines on the ice.
Probably the toughest player in the history of our league.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
I appreciate you coming back on. I know we have just over a month and a half, maybe a little bit more for you before your first game, but an awesome training camp coming up for both your EHL and your EHLP team. So good luck with the start of the season. We'll see you at the showcase, and enjoy the rest of the offseason as well.
Thanks, Neil. You too.
Thanks again to Bill Zaniboni for coming on the podcast this week. And with that, let's bring in the E crew now. Jeff, Anthony, it's the summer, but we have a special guest.
Yes, we do. Finally, we told all you E-Show fans that he was going to be here. Jim McCabe, the famous, the infamous Jim McCabe, your Seahawks Hockey Club. Once
how's everybody doing?
Seahawks play-by-play guy. Wow, I can't speak English.
PXP, Jeffo.
Play-by-play. I also do some play-by-play, here and there, but can't speak English today. Here's Jim. Jim, take it over.
Guys, I'm really super honored to be on this podcast. You guys do a phenomenal job on this week in and week out, and I've gotten so much great information just from listening to you guys, and the interviews, and you guys talking amongst themselves. You guys put out some stats and just information that I'm just like, wow, that's great, and just gets added to my notes. And at some point, if it's relevant, it gets probably regurgitated by me on the air. So
thanks, buddy. We tried. We have fun. We tried.
Yeah, I know I got to call a game for you once, Jim. I know Jeff has.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you've called all but 2 Seahawks games in the history?
I guess that's right. We did.
So you can count on one hand how many times you've missed the Seahawks.
We had one game last year. The Microsoft Windows update just killed the hockey TV computer.
Oh, I remember that. Well, that went into a shootout, I think.
Yeah.
And it updated right before the shootout started. And Jim, I also have to deal with that same encoder at Jersey Shore Arena. Now, knock on wood, I've never had it restart during the game. Usually when I turn it off, it gives me the option of turning off and then updating and then turning off. But yeah, that's just tough luck, and that's nothing you can really do about that.
Nope.
Yeah, you gotta have an eagle eye. You have an eagle eye on that computer when they tell. So I'd say about 99.9% almost of all Seahawks home games, and then that's including the showcase games. Also, I've done a lot of their showcase games. I've tried to get scheduled for them as best as possible.
And me and Jim usually do that with now it's Jeremy Cook. It was once Chris Thompson. Lots of folks over Hockey TV that help us coordinate. And I always say, Jim, you take the Seahawks side, man. You got it. You take it. So
well, there was that one incident at Walpole, I think, Jim, where I was calling the Seahawks game and you were calling the 87s game where
Right?
it was basically flip-flop.
I thought that was funny. I can't believe, it's been this will be my 6th year with the team. It's been the Seahawks. This will be the Seahawks 6th year. It's been a great ride. And President Bill Collette and head coach Bill Zaniboni have just been phenomenal to work with at all times. It's a great organization, and I'm just so thrilled to be and going to Cape Cod. I'm lucky enough to now live in Rhode Island. And every time I go over the bridge, guys, the Cape Cod Canal bridges, I'm just like, wow, this is great. I just was in Cape Cod for the first time in a summertime setting, and you see how crazy the Cape is on the summer, and it's a lot quieter during the winter, but it doesn't lose the mystique of doing it. And, I'm sure the kids, the players probably, wish it was a little bit more summertime. But I think overall, anybody that gets to be involved, in such a thing, in such a setting is, maybe lucky enough.
That is funny. You go over there in the dead of winter when nobody goes to Cape Cod.
Yeah, I've been lucky, when we've had some big blizzards, but nothing that's prevented me from being able to. I'll tell you a story. It's not directly involved with the Seahawks, but it does involve driving from a game in Southeast Massachusetts during snow. I'm a very stubborn person. A couple of years ago, I was doing a game in Bridgewater, and I didn't have enough. I realized I didn't have my wallet with me, and I needed gas money, but I wouldn't ask anybody. I was so embarrassed. It's like, I'll make it home. And of course, I was on Route 495. The whole way up was just traffic. Nobody. We were all stuck behind the plow. And I'm looking, and you got the E on the gas tank, and it's like over the E at this point. I'm like, I'm gonna get stuck. I'm gonna create this whole thing. AAA is gonna have to come. I'm gonna be on the news. It's gonna be terrible. Somehow I somehow made it home through the grace of God. I don't know how. But I mean, that was like 40 miles or so of like being on E and wondering when it was going to happen, and it never did. So yeah, hockey and doing the games, it presents challenges sometimes, I guess.
The things we do to call games, but
perseverance, Jim. You got plenty of it, buddy.
Yeah. No.
Let's jump into the top 10 now. Which at the end of my interview with Bill, he gave us the first name. Who, whether he said this name or not, we were going to say this name. When I asked him to start off the list, you could tell that he was definitely torn about who to start it off with. When I said, who is Mr. Seahawk in his mind. But John Bannovitz, we would have had him whether Bill put him down or not. We don't swear on this podcast, but John Bannovitz was the toughest mother blank ever in this league. Like there is nobody above him. Like no one in 9 years. He played everything physical, and every time he hit you, it was as hard as he possibly could. And like there were some hits that, like, remember when Chara would get called for stuff, Jeff, because he was just bigger than everybody else. Like I feel like Bannovitz got called for stuff because he was just bigger than everybody else.
He was 6'3", 174. So as we always say with skates, that adds 2 inches, so 6'5". He seemed way bigger than that. But just look at his picture on EP. And he goes to Norwich. That's the most fitting school for him to go to. A powerhouse D3 hockey school, a tough school with military.
That's what he's going to go into after he graduates too. So he's going to the military.
That's perfect for Bannovitz. Just look at his picture. Just look at his face. That's a guy you don't want to be going into too many corners with.
I know I said it when I had Bill on too. There was the moment when we pulled into the parking lot at Breakaway with the All-Star team, and I didn't recognize the man that was sitting next to Bill in the truck or the van that we were taking. And then there was also the moment where we actually, the first awards banquet we ever had, the first and only awards banquet, because now we do it all on YouTube. We went to have a beverage afterwards, right, Jeff?
Always do.
Bannovitz was out of the league at this point. I mean, I think he had like whiskey on the rocks going. And I'm like, man, this guy is older than me. It made me feel young, like next to this guy, but he was He was awesome. I mean,
He's like, you boys want to go to the cigar lounge? Let's go get some scotch on the rye.
Well, he's one of our many great Alaskans that have been on the team.
yes. And
That sounds like a true Alaskan right there.
he
that's right.
actually was with Bill. So Bill referenced when he was in Wisconsin in our interview. That's when he coached the Dallas Ducks in the USPHL and then came over to the Seahawks. So 2 seasons with the Seahawks. I mentioned more of a physical defenseman, but he still put up 46 points in 2 years. So definitely can start the list with him. 9 more to go. Jim, do you want to give us the next one that you want on the list?
Okay, so
You can pick anybody.
Well, so moving on from Bannovitz then, because you pretty much said everything I was going to say about him. Big dude, just got penalties sometimes for just hitting people. And I mean, just an unbelievably fearsome guy. And yeah, he could score goals. He had at least one game winner overtime in a showcase game, I remember. And he was. And you mentioned Neil with the Dells Ducks, the Dells Ducks, and obviously head coach Zaniboni was with them, and he brought the group of them, and in the first year they made up 3 of the 4 top scorers, not including Bannovitz. So that the bring over of those guys to get the team started, as a Seahawks expansion team, that was huge. I've talked about that on the air a lot. Obviously, it's been expanded, but it was great that Coach Z was able to bring those guys and Bannovitz included. So okay, so we're moving on here.
We need 9 more guys. You tell us who's on the list next. It's your pick.
I would go with hat trick Patrick O'Neill.
Okay.
I lost count already. I lost count how many hat tricks he did have. I had 3. I got to catch up on things, but he had 45 goals in 2 seasons. He was just a pure goal scorer, man. And one of these guys, I said about you talk about origins. Seahawks have done really well with bringing guys from the Pittsburgh area, Patrick included. That's been a great recruiting area. We had the 3 Purdue brothers, unbelievable that we had them all. We have had them all play. The youngest Purdue's played for the Seahawks premier team. They're all from the Pittsburgh area. But Patrick O'Neill, he was. I mean, he was a reliable scorer. He had a great shot, and that's another Norwich player, Jeffo. He's I definitely would. That would be the name I'd give you here right now.
I like that. Yeah, 2-time 20-goal scorer, 22 goals in 18-19, 23 goals in 19-20. And there's another team, Neil, too. We always talk about on the show, the 19-20 season. That Seahawks team was pretty loaded. That was their best season yet, 62 points, 31 wins. O'Neal leading the way there. You wonder what they could have done if we could have finished that season. But
yeah,
we'll never know.
That gives us 2 Seahawks players so far, 2 players that advanced on to Norwich. The next name that I'm going to say with a short story is John Murphy, because back when I called Wizards games was the venue where Murphy broke his collarbone. And he was like, if Bannovitz was the toughest mother blank of all time, Murphy was too. Like he would block a shot with his face. Like he truly would. And to hear the yell of pain, like I'll never forget it. Like I had to turn while I was on the broadcast because I went through the headphones. And but when he was with the Seahawks, he was the pulse of the team, in my opinion. Like every bit of energy that the team had every night was because of John Murphy. 3 years with the Seahawks at SUNY Cortland now, and put up points too each and every season. Probably would have had his best season in terms of points if he got to actually finish that 19-20 season. But as I mentioned, got cut short due to injury. I thought this is where Bill Zaniboni would have gone for Mr. Seahawk, because he kind of was Mr. Seahawk for 3 years.
That's what I called him.
I know you did.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, continue. I'm sorry, my bad.
No, that's good. I think I remember you calling him that on the air one time.
Yeah, I mean, buck and a quarter games about, 100 plus, and I did call him that because, I mean, he just commanded so much respect amongst his teammates, and when he was there after his injuries, and he was there watching the games, and he was, I mean, he was there. He was as involved as he could be post injury, and like what you're saying, Neil. I mean, I would have loved to have seen what he could have done if he hadn't been fallen down by that, by what his injury situation. He was just the leadership skills he possessed are what you look for in a hockey player.
Yeah, he was going to be my guess, either Murphy or McDonald. Remember old Jack McDonald? He was a
Well,
big.
and look at the game totals, right? Like Murphy probably, if he doesn't get injured, has more than Jack Mack. I think that's what Bill called him, Jack Mack.
It was both 3-year guys. They've only been around for 5 years, going on 6. So yeah, it's huge. They were total athletic Seahawks that one season that they donned that name.
One season they've gone through. I got a little bit of info that we obviously the team has the new logo now, but the one we had a former NFL coach involved in the ownership.
Sherman, that's right.
Sherman, yeah. And I think that is how we were able to get the Seattle Seahawks facsimile, which I really loved. I remember I saw some podcasts, not you guys, some very much inferior podcast that was debating logos, and they pooped all over that one. I was like, what are you guys talking about? What are you guys, the people that spend their time on the internet with their pointless things that they say, once again, want to very much specify, I'm not talking about you guys, all the other ones, not this one.
I mean, I love that.
Very low tolerance for idiots. That's all.
I will say though, in the few games that I have called involving the Seahawks in showcases, I think I've had to stop myself a couple of times from saying Seattle because it is a similar logo, and you're just so used to that's the Seattle Seahawks, but then you're like, wait, no, we're in the Northeast. They're the Seahawks Hockey Club, so you just have to watch that.
One of the Railways broadcasters on numerous occasions last season, and he would text me afterwards. Would constantly talk about how Seattle entered the zone, and it's like if a team in Seattle
GJ Mitchell,
if Seattle wants to come east and with the junior team and play every game in the Northeast, then great. Right. But we are definitely the Eastern Hockey League, and Seattle is definitely not East.
Not the travel budget, I would say.
No,
we complain about the scheduler. Hey, I got to go out and play Seattle this week. No,
but the new logo, the new version of the bird.
I like that.
Doesn't
mean looking.
You can't confuse it, right?
No.
I believe I was told that Coach Zaniboni's wife was the creator of that logo. Yes. If I'm wrong, I'm going to hear about it. But I thought that's what I was told. But I haven't been told. I asked him if he knew what the lighthouse was, and he's like, oh yeah. He told me which lighthouse it was. One of the Cape Cod lighthouses, which of course there are many of. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's like, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know which lighthouse it is.
Hey Jim, I do have
the Cape Cod lighthouses.
I do have a quick question about the logo, and because this is a podcast, people can't see. It's the lighthouse. It's a new look of the Seahawk, and on the right side there are 3 green stars. Is there a significance behind the 3 stars?
I don't know about that, Anthony. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
I should have asked the question when I had Bill on.
You never know, because I mean, some logos they're very intricate in details, and every detail means something. Possibly, I may have asked about that, but if he told me, I don't remember. I'll get on that. It'll be one of the first questions I ask him when I go back to Tony Kent Arena in about a month.
So they brought the new logo in this season. I like this one, this jersey
the silhouette on the right.
Yeah, that is very
I like this one a lot this year. I especially like the white stripe with the gray bar down the middle. I thought it just really stood out. Probably, actually, you know what? As I pull up this picture to show you guys, this player probably should be on our list too.
Is that Austin Pick?
Yes,
yeah, he's another Mr. Seahawk. Love him.
He is on my list. So yeah, we're all on the same brain train today.
So Austin Pick is another player who was a captain for Bill Zaniboni. Well, you mentioned earlier, Jim, Bannovitz from Alaska. Austin Pick, I don't know this as a stat. Maybe I should. Could be the only player we've ever had from Oregon in the league. I mean, I don't think we've had many players from Oregon work their way to the Eastern Hockey League.
Yeah, that origin has stood out to me. I would say you're probably right about that. But maybe we could see an influx now.
2 seasons.
Come on in.
Yes, 2 seasons of Seahawks heading off to Stonehill this fall, which keep an eye out for Stonehill and a
D1
D2 team with playing maybe a hybrid D1 schedule this year. So look for players like Pick, Matt Pimentel, and a bunch of others that are supposed to go to Stonehill this fall. So
hey, this is a perfect time to bring up. I saw Xander's. We love Bill Zaniboni, one of our favorite coaches. I'm going to give Xander the Xander claps real quick. We're going to do some Xander claps. Transformation season on his story yesterday. Saw him in the Minnesota North Stars cutoff, sweating his butt off. Guy looks good. He looks good. He's getting into mid-season form. It might be going back between the pipes. I don't know. So we got the Seahawks logos transforming. We got Xander's transforming. Let's see what Coach Richard looks like. I think Coach Radcliffe's left us for Hawaii.
He's back. I golfed with him.
Coming back.
I golfed with him last week.
Ratty Daddy.
Yes,
got the inside scoop by golfing.
Yes, I went golfing with the two Bills and Alex. I actually saw Alex when I was in Hawaii.
That's a wagon of a coaching staff. Coach Richard, Coach Radcliffe, Coach Zaniboni.
Yes. So it was definitely a fun golf round with many laughs.
I bet. Bill Collette's full of laughs too.
Yes, Bill's
not a coach. But
Bill Z had a slice going for a few holes. So those like golf videos where the person like intentionally lines up like very off center to accommodate for the slice. He did that once and hit it like creamed it down the middle, and I was like, it shouldn't work like that. Like the game should not work like that. But okay, like that's fine. So, but that gives us 5 so far. And according to Bill, we really haven't even mentioned the player yet who he feels may have the best chance of going pro, and that was CJ Klein. So CJ Klein, actually another player who, if he doesn't get hurt, you wonder what the Seahawks could possibly do in that play in those playoffs that we never really finished, as Jeff mentioned before, 2019-20. But CJ Klein was as steady as they came. I mean, you put him next to Bannovitz, there's really not much of a size difference, 6'5", 214. And he's now playing at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. So
massive, man.
Bill and I, when in talking, he always references how Klein, of all the players that have come through, maybe the player that has the best chance to go somewhere with a pro career. So, Jim, as you'll notice when we do our top 10s, quickly we have 6 guys already. and it's crazy how fast that fills up. We do have the first 4 in the top scorers list here. So,
well, I mean, if let's just first say if CJ Klein does make it pro, then perhaps that will be the world's introduction to my broadcasting. I know I belted out one of my lines with him with a slap shot. He sizzled a slapper at the EHL showcase in Walpole, and I was just blown away by it. And that was him. He was an offensive defenseman, and whenever I talk to head coach Zaniboni, about a game, I'll say, "Oh, did you see that?" And his eyes aren't always focused on the same thing mine is. So, I remember talking about Klein once. He, the typical thing that you might expect to say, "Well, yeah, but he's blah blah defenseman. He should be a defenseman." Basically, to summarize it up, just wanting his defenseman to play D, and that's not to say that Klein omitted that, but his offensive abilities, he commanded the point, excellently. And
Tim, do you remember what line you said when he scored on that slap shot?
Right. I remember everything. The line was he sent that burnt piece of scrod right back to the kitchen.
Oh.
That's if you're not.
Oh no, we lost his audio.
We lost Jim's audio for a second.
No, it was so good we lost his audio.
Oh, no.
I mean, when he has those lines though, he give Jim credit. He's got them ready to go.
strength.
Jimmy, you back?
Oh, there he
we
goes.
go. He's
Hey.
back now. We
Your
lost
audio
you for
cut off for a second,
Jim.
Jim.
You gotta go. Okay, taking her to daycare. Okay.
Where'd
Where'd you leave? I'm sorry,
Jim
guys.
Fits right, Jim fits right in the podcast with the background stuff. Remember, I always have Nash barking in the background.
Yep.
We heard you say what line you use, but then when you started to explain the line, we lost you. But we talked for a second about how when it comes to your goal calls, you know what you're going to say before the puck even goes in.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've got a list. Now, we moved into a house, and I have a home office now, which includes a printer just in January. So this year, guys, we're going to be stepping it up because I'm actually going to be able to print stuff out. It's crazy, I know. So I may be able to refine things a little bit better. But what it's been traditionally is, something happens, I'm just like, I just scramble and look for it.
Jim, I just want to bring up one of my favorites, but I don't think it was a Seahawks game. It was for the Boston Junior Rangers. Zukowski scored in overtime, and you said, "Who's got the invite to Jane's chicken party?"
Yes.
When I heard, actually, wait, no, there was one more, and I think it was at I don't know if it was the Worcester showcase or one of the later showcases, where I think it was someone on the Valley Junior Warriors who scored.
Welcome to the
Donde
game.
está la fiesta?
Oh, yes. That is what Anthony loves.
No, both of those are just basically party, Fiesta's party. So, I've had a kick of watching Mexican League soccer over the last few years. So I said I want to start saying Spanish stuff. So that's where that came from. To go back, hold on. Let's say the Jane's Chicken Party. You wanted. I don't know if you need explanations on these things on all of them, but that one in particular, last summer. I was I have extended family in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and I was here, and we had our good friends that my wife and I are friends with. They had a newborn named Jane, and she's just a trip. And it's just the typical thing that you would see for a kid when you go out to a restaurant. You look over there, we've got all adult looking plates of food, and you look over there and she's just shredded everything to pieces. Chicken everywhere, and I wrote it down. Actually, what I usually do is I text them to myself, and then I write them down later. It's a process. That's
it was legit Jane's chicken party. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but I mean, to tell you about one, I mean, really in the era of just randomness, the one that really I couldn't believe my good luck was an EHL showcase game years ago. It was oh God, now who was it? Team Maryland, and I can't remember their opponents, but it was two McDonald's involved in the fight, and I said, "Let's go to McDonald's and order a fillet of fists."
Oh my God,
it was two McDonald's. They both got penalized from it. I could not believe my luck on that. So
that is a dad joke for one Commissioner Neil Ravin.
I love that one. I got
McDonald's fillet of fists.
I got to go back and find that.
Never heard that before.
I'll send you the link.
Okay. But while we're here, back to the top 10, and I mentioned we have six so far. What's funny is we've put six guys so far, and I often talk about, especially with you guys, Jeff and Anthony, on this podcast, how we have so many coaches that are former goalies, right?
Bill Zaniboni. Just going to ask you, read my mind.
When are we going to go to goalies? So
Xander's asking the same thing. He's how many minutes in? He's like, come on, guys. Hadley, Durand. We used to call Peyton Durand Mr. Cape Cod, I think.
Look at some of the goalies at the top here: DJ Paxton, Brandon Collette, Tristan Hadley, Peyton Durand, Philip Slider, Nate Hopkins coming back. There's been a lot of good goalies here. I know in Bill's mind, the number one he's ever had was Peyton Durand.
Yeah, I think
so. He's definitely here. I guess the question next is, Durand gives us 7. Do we have room for a second goalie?
I think you got to add DJ Paxton, guys. I would say Durand as I mean it's 1-2 for me. And not much of a difference, but
Durand was lights out in 2020.
We talk about calls that have made Jim McCabe say some things. DJ Paxton was the quote was he bamboozled Dominic Marcinkiewicz.
We're just
on
talking about him last
game
week.
at Tony Kent Arena on his side and just extending limbs up and somehow getting a shot that he should have been completely and totally dead to rights on. And we barely saw it because it was at the other end of Tony Kent Arena. You know, we're at the balcony on the opponent's shoot twice end, and we had to wait until the end of the intermission. Like when the intermission happened, I sprinted down to the coach's office. I was like, "Did he make that save?" He's like, "Yes," and we were all just like in disbelief. So that's the best save I've seen a Seahawks goalie make. Peyton Durand, though, I mean, he's his best save sequence, I think, or his best save, I would say, was also a TKA, and this was on our end, so I saw it a little better. Was it against the Rangers? Maybe he made it was a 1-2-3 save, and that also produced a call. I believe it was Ravioli, the performance of this goalie. So, Paxton and Durant, man, they were great goalies for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, Paxton had a 1.84 goals against in 18-19. That's something.
Jim,
and he was another guy that came from Bill's.
Paxton was another Dell's Duck, another former Dell's Duck. I'm sorry, what?
I said, Jim, I might have to borrow that call. Ravioli, the performance of this goalie.
I think I took that from somebody. I want to say I may have kind of borrowed that from somebody else. I want to say maybe a former. The name isn't with me right now, but perhaps a former EHL announcer. I may have modified a little bit, but obviously that's the SpongeBob.
Yep.
Yeah. So that one was semi-original, but actually for the save, that's the save calls. I don't year to year. I never have as many calls ready to go for saves as I do for goals. The list is always shorter, so I don't know. I gotta expand it a little bit, I guess.
Get into that office, bud. We got the printer. We get the office. You got it. I believe in you.
I've put Durant on the list so far. And Jim, what we do for other teams, when we have players who we don't quite know yet if they're in the top 10, I kind of put a few spaces in between and put them there for now, just while we can figure out what skaters we want still, what other goalies we want to talk about. Because we kind of do at sometimes use their college careers as a tiebreaker. Maybe for Paxton, we could also use that neon green goalie mask as a tiebreaker.
But I was thinking that too. I looked at
the cage bars being a tiebreaker.
What is that?
I mean, just to mention some other goalies, Bill Collette's nephew, Brandon Collette, what was a huge part of the Seahawks for 2 seasons, now at Castleton. One of these wins at Castleton was like a mega performance against Norwich, which we have touched on a few times with Pat O'Neill and John Bannovitz. We talked about Tristan Hadley, who spent 2 seasons with the Seahawks as well. Bill and I have talked throughout the past year or so about how Philip Schleider has been terrific at SUNY Canton. So just a few other goalies to mention so far.
I got one to mention because last year Kevin Wright was one of the youngest players to play in the EHL as an 05.
Yep.
Now I know he only played I don't know, was it just that one game in the showcase, or maybe he played a couple of handfuls?
Just one, yeah.
Is he coming back? Do you think this is a goaltender that can really kind of start a legacy at in Cape Cod for the Seahawks Hockey Club?
Yeah, he's got like 10 years of junior hockey eligibility left. He's young. He's going to be here for the next decade.
Yeah, he's a Cape Codder, so I mean, that's
smart his kid too.
He is coming back, Anthony. He's one of a number of players that's actually moving up. Bill and I talked about how many EHLP players. I mean, last season again was just their first season of having an EHLP team, but they still had. Bill believes 45 to 50 games. EHL games played combined, all those EHLP players. So we should see Kevin Wright move up. We should see Jackson Ryan move up. So, yeah, that's a great call, Anthony, to mention Kevin Wright. I don't know if he makes his way onto this list because
no, that
It's
was
an honorable mention.
that's just more of like I don't know. Every time we have a team and we talk about them, sometimes I like to bring up a player to watch out for that down the road could make their way onto a list like this.
yes, for
And
sure.
how about Liam's Chassé? Is he coming back? There's another goal.
Oh, with the
Had
gold
fancy
jacket.
jackets. Is he coming back, Neil?
That's a good question. I need to look into that.
He was the EHL premier goalie.
One thing I want to talk about with the EHL
Gold jacket. You couldn't miss that.
Yeah, his
one thing I
style.
want to talk about with the EHLP team is that I think I called all 4 games between the 87s and the Seahawks and the showcases, or maybe all but one.
Was it just 4, Anthony, or was it 5? There was a lot.
Well, no, I think it was 4. The Seahawks won all 4 of them, but 3 of them were 1-goal games. 2 of them were in overtime. Those are some of the best games I've watched or that I've called this season. Between the 2 EHLP programs, like even though the Seahawks won all of them, 3 of them could have gone either way.
Anthony, I think me and you were on one of those at Rodman together, weren't we?
Yeah, I believe
Remember
so.
correctly? Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who
Was
scored.
that an overtime?
Yeah, that was
a
overtime
2-1.
winner for the
Yeah.
Seahawks.
And maybe you guys will remember the name. Bill and I talked about it during the interview. There was a game in Walpole where the Seahawks and EHLP players scored. And the eruption from the EHL team in the crowd was on another level.
Renegades.
Yes. Do you know who scored the goal? I don't think Bill and I mentioned the name during the interview. I forget the player.
Because wasn't it his
I know
first
I put together highlights for that game, so I'm sure I could find it.
Yeah, it was his first goal. So
Yeah,
but
and
a cool
and that's why they were so excited. Yeah, the Seahawks, as I said, I think on there, they took over Rodman Arena in that moment. They were having a party.
We got 7 so far, maybe Paxson, but I want to also show the all-time team that Jeff and I came up with last season, just so we can see some of the names that we haven't mentioned so far. But also, Cade Hanley. We haven't mentioned Cade Hanley yet. Another player coming back who I think, to Anthony's point, keep an eye on, but also could be on this list is Scott McManus. He had 32 points this past year. He's an age out this year. He had that game-winning goal for the Seahawks in that play-in game against the Warriors. So 2 other names to consider. And then when you go back up to their all-time points list, Trevor Veniclaus, Colton Smith, Jeremy Vasquez, Brendan Krause, who scored one of the nastiest shootout goals ever in this league. It was at Bedford. I was calling it. He did the Forsberg, like the one hand on the side move. And actually, Bill sent me a video, like they recorded it behind the net afterwards. It was out of this world. Shane Murphy, Eric Honnold. There's so many different names here that we can fill in with these final spots, but we only have 10 spots.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it gets tough, Jim.
Well, I mean,
help us, Jim. Help.
Go ahead, Jeffo.
No, I was saying help us.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, it's really hard for me to pick because, and that shootout, you're eliciting memories here for me. Yeah, that was a nasty one. That game at the Wizards for Krause, but I would, one guy that doesn't have the games or the points to be up on the top list, but made an immediate impact on this team last year was Hans Forselius. I'm probably being a little selfish here because I was on the call for, I would say, the 2 goals that he scored that were like, oh my, and they were basically the same thing. It was just like a breakaway, a goalie undresser deal. Hans Forselius. You get these guys that have come from other leagues that get a nice reset, and they maybe they have a little chip on their shoulder and they show you what they can do. Forselius last year, he's 20 years old, so you're gonna remind me. Does that mean he's ineligible to come back?
Yeah, he can come back.
21's age.
I guess we'll see where he winds up, but 7 goals, 8 assists, and 15 points in 19 games for the Seahawks last season. I really enjoyed his presence on the team. So yeah, anybody that can go on there and just do it all themselves individually on offense, it's a special thing to watch.
And along those lines, Jim, I mean, David Novotny's time with the Seahawks was very short as well. Only played 13 games that 2020-21 season. Then went to NEC college and had 18 points in his freshman year. That's a damn good freshman year.
The Seahawks, and head coach Zaniboni, he's made no mistake about it. His top priority is getting these kids to college. I don't know if I'd like to think that it's that way for a lot of coaches, but I mean, he never seems to lose focus of that. And correspondingly, the Seahawks just have a great list of alumni, I would say, that have gone on to play colleges. One other name I'd mention is Declan Dennehy, the forward. I thought he has another one, Anthony. That was the Scooby Dooby Doo call. You were on together for Declan Dennehy. He ripped a shorthanded goal at the showcase in was that Haverhill?
Could have been.
I want to say that was Haverhill.
One Paul T. Gilmartin Memorial Arena.
Yeah, that was the Scooby. That was another. The Scooby Dooby Doo call was also influenced by my niece Olivia. I asked her for a few good calls one time, and she gave me a few, and that was one of them. So,
the secret to good broadcasting calls is
children
reference children, relatives. So,
yeah.
I'm gonna
try and come up with all of them on your own. If anybody else has anything good for you.
I'm gonna lock in an 8th guy on this list in Cade Hanley.
Good choice.
Not because now he can cross off Montana as being a place where players come from, even though Bill loves Boston, Montana, loves Boston. He always talks about how awesome of a city it is. But advanced on a UMass Dartmouth, which we've talked about too many times to count on this podcast this summer. The line of guys that we've sent to UMass Dartmouth, but 2 very solid seasons, basically played every game for the Seahawks over the course of those 2 years. Cade Hanley, speaking of showcases, I will always remember a game winner that he scored against Team Maryland at a showcase down in Philly, where he just got a pass in the slot and undressed the goaltender in overtime for the Seahawks. So Cade Hanley, to me, has to be on this list for what he did over his 2 years with the Seahawks. So that gives us 8 confirmed so far. How do we feel about Scott McManus, who I brought up before? Again, I say it because I think what he's going to do this upcoming season, he had 32 points total this past year. I think he has the chance of having 50 to 60 plus points this season.
Yeah, I like the McManus call. And actually, someone else that we didn't get to mention, Andrew Kimball. Is he on? Did he age out?
No, he
had 29 points in 26 games.
He's going to college, Jeff. I mean, he was
a fantasy favorite, had some battled injuries last year, but he was a really good player. Really cool kid too. Had a chance to talk to him a bunch of showcase and stuff. Really down to earth and always listens to the E Show. One of the players that likes to log on and listen to us a lot. It's part of our All-Star series, and
I feel like I picked him a lot in fantasy. I could be wrong.
I think we all did a little bit. I think I picked him and I got the Neil Ravin curse. I think he got banged up, or I didn't realize.
Maybe it was a curse. Maybe it was a curse last year, Jeff. But the year before, I won fantasy. Let's just make that point.
Yeah.
But yes, Kimball is going to college with Colin Bella.
Oh,
that could be
Forest College. That could be
duo. A pretty damn good duo. So
pick up a lot of apples. Share the puck to Mr. Colin Bella.
Do we want both? Do we want both Kimball and McManus?
Or I was gonna say, you mentioned earlier too, Trevor Veniclaus.
Yeah,
he's tied with O'Neill for highest points per game as a Seahawk with 1.09. Only played 46 games. It was just a one and done year, but 21 goals, 29 assists. And we've talked about Coach Zaniboni's defensive mentality. Always tries to build from the back end out with strong goaltending, strong D. They're not known for being a high scoring offensive team, but like O'Neill, a guy that put over 20 pucks in a net. I think that's someone we got to think about.
If you have a
but
50-point
you guys.
season, I feel like you have to be
right,
And this is where it gets tough, Jim, because you have a goalie so far, but when Jeff and I did this past year, we did a team. It was really easy. You have all these guys. There's 20 guys here. To trim it down to 10, someone's going to get left out.
Yep.
I'm not going to waver from Paxton. I think you should just delete a few spaces there and bring him back up with the rest of the group.
Okay, and then that means you pick one, McManus or Veniclaus.
I don't know, man. Veniclaus, you're talking about another one of those Devils Ducks guys. I'm sorry, no, I'm wrong about that.
One year, 52 points, played every single game for the Seahawks that year.
He's from Brentwood, Tennessee. We don't have a ton of guys from Tennessee either.
You know what, Jeff? There you go. Let's cross off more states.
You love Nashville. You love Nashville. Just saying.
All I can say about Scooter is the kids love him. All the rest of the players love him. That they really enjoy his performance on the ice, and if we're going to see more of that, if you want to just go ahead and prognosticate here and factor him in for the upcoming season, I'm fine with that too.
I feel like
he's a great name too. Just wanted to not leave out any names you mentioned here.
I think that's good motivation for McManus to have a solid age-out season and a year from now take somebody off this list. I don't know who he takes off, but maybe he takes someone off this list.
Hey, I like that nickname too, Scooter. That's a perfect hockey name.
Yeah.
Nickname.
I want to say I got that from them and not the other way around, but who knows anymore. We live in a post-truth society, as I like to say all the time. So
So here's our list, our Seahawks Hockey Club top 10. Again, hard to believe they've already been in the league for 5 seasons, coming up on their 6th year this year. They're 2nd in the EHLP, but the top 10 Seahawks, as chosen by us with the help of Jim McCabe, John Bannovitz, Patrick O'Neill, John Murphy, Jack McDonald, Austin Pick, CJ Klein, Peyton Duran, Cade Hanley, DJ Paxton, and Trevor Veniclaus. That's a damn good list. It's a damn good list.
It really is, guys.
Jim, thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, thank you, Jimbo. Always a pleasure, buddy.
Guys, I really am just so happy and honored to have participated in this with you guys, and I want to say again that you guys do a great job with the E-Show podcast, and keep it up.
Thank you, Jim.
You got to come back during this regular season, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We'll
be back.
We'll wait for a great goal call and then have him on the following week to spend 30 minutes breaking down the goal call. But again, thanks to Jim for coming on this week. Another stellar top 10. Jeff, Anthony, we only have 5 of these left.
Oh.
So we're going to the Central next week with the New York Apple Corps, which will then following next week leave 1 team per division remaining in the Spartans, Warriors, Rough Riders, who used to be the Oilers. We could talk about that, and Little Flyers. So actually, I guess you could say 3 of the upcoming 5 are original franchises, teams that have been here every single season since the league was formed. So a great way, in my opinion, to wrap up the summer. So thanks again to Jim for coming on, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.